now, it's For the People with Judge Herb Dodell.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. You know, over the almost 14 months we've been doing the show, I recognized the other day that we hadn't talked about small claims court in a long, long time.
And you're a judge on small claims court.
I still am.
You still doing it?
I still am. Believe it or not. Not so much anymore. My wife says I'm semi-retired. So I'm available when they call me. And so, but small claims court is really the people's court. You know when you had that case with Baldy the Clown?
Yeah, me versus Baldy the Clown. Yeah.
Right. You know,
but I had to fly to Connecticut for that one.
And he wigged out.
He wigged out. He actually wore a wig on People's Court and wigged out.
I remember the story. But today we have a very special guest. And what I'm going to do is going to kind of trace the beginning of a lawsuit all the way to the end in different kinds. Now, Jeff Nadrich is an expert on what they call mass torts, class actions, mass torts, asbestos cases, things like that. The high-end, big damage cases.
What's a tort for people that don't know what a tort is? I know what a tart is, but I don't know what a tort is.
A tort is simply called a civil wrong.
Okay.
As opposed to a criminal wrong. Negligence is a tort.
Okay.
Trespass is a tort. Defamation is a tort. And you get a certain kind of damages for that kind of injury that you don't get in a business case. Like in many of the personal type cases, you can recover what's called consequential damages, which are personal injury damages that you could describe, I suppose, as pain and suffering. You don't get those in business cases, especially with corporations. Corporations can never recover for those kind of injuries. Why not? What do you think they can't recover for those injuries?
I don't know.
A corporation is not a real physical person. That's why.
It isn't?
Well, in the eyes of the law, it is. And do you know why people form corporations?
Like LLCs and things like that?
Yeah, you know why they do that?
Taxes?
To some degree, yeah.
Okay.
The real reason is to avoid what's called liability.
Oh, okay.
In other words, if you have a corporation that commits a tort, for example, and it doesn't have a whole lot of money of its own, and you sue them and you get a judgment, you can't go against the principles of the corporation. All you could go against is the assets of the corporation. If it doesn't have any, or it's gotten rid of most of its assets in anticipation.
Or bury them.
Well, we're not talking, no criminal cases here today.
Oh, okay.
We're not burying anybody.
Oh, okay.
But we are burying somebody today, actually. President George H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. You know, the more I watch it, the better he got. It's like that great license plate that I saw. On somebody's car not too long ago, I saw a license plate that said, "The older I get, the better I was." And it really is. You know, you forget about all of the other stuff and you remember all the good things that people do.
Exactly.
That's the way it works.
Well, when you die, you're not supposed to remember anything negative, anything. Or like, right? I mean, you always remember the positive.
I heard somebody say the other day there was no Brinks truck that follows the hearse. You know, so the bottom line is what we're going to do is we're going to cover different kinds of lawsuits, and we're going to end up talking with Jeff about the Malibu fires, the fires up north, because this is an area in which he specializes.
Okay.
And so he was telling me the other day when I made the contact with him that they've got 40 cases going already in Paradise, California, for people who either lost their lives, which we call wrongful death cases, or cases where they're going to bring against PG&E. Because that's what got me interested in having him as a guest today. They're planning on a major lawsuit against PG&E.
Class action?
He thinks that, well, I'm going to let him tell you what he's doing.
Okay.
But he thinks that they're going to be able to recover for most of these people's damages at the end of the day. And they take cases strictly on a contingency, so anybody that is being represented by them, it's not paying anything. It comes out of the at the end of the case. Now, class actions, I wrote a little chapter, it's a very small chapter actually in the book, about class
From
actions.
the trench to the bench.
Navigating your legal system and finding a spiritual path along the way.
Still can't find that spiritual path, damn it. Trying.
Did you open that drawer? It's in there.
Is it?
Yeah, open the drawer. There it is.
All I got is a Jewish calendar in there of rock stars.
But you don't have the Mormon Bible if you're not staying in a Marriott hotel.
Mormon, please. Never would date a Mormon. But go ahead.
Why not? No.
I would.
I'm going to withdraw that question. So if you watch TV shows and you hear him say, "I'm withdrawing the question," you should never ask a question that you don't know the answer to.
Thank you.
We talked about. I was listening to one of the shows the other day, and we were talking about trial strategies and things like that. And you asked the question. You said to me, "Should you ask a question you don't know the answer?" And the answer to that question is
never.
Not never. Almost never.
Okay.
The only time you don't care about the answer is when it doesn't matter. You don't care what the answer is. You can ask a why. The reason you don't ask a why question of an adversary witness, you want to know what the answer to that is? Why not?
Because you never know what they're going to say.
And they're going to keep on talking. You can't stop them.
Exactly.
Because you asked them why.
Yeah.
And so never that one.
You're going to give them an out.
You know, and I was thinking too the other day. I had a case many years ago against a dentist in Beverly Hills, a dental malpractice case. And I made a mistake. I kept him on the stand too long. He turned out to be a really nice guy. And the longer he was sitting on that stand and answering questions politely and professionally and whatever else, the less impact, the few pieces of information, evidence that I had that went anywhere. And he was so likable, my client was not so likable.
So you lost.
So we lost, yes. Yeah. Why did you have to bring that up?
Well, I mean, you can't win them all, Judge.
That's absolutely true. And I was just telling somebody today that I had a case downtown L.A., fire and casualty case. Client was not a terrific person, but it had a decent case. Right next door in the courtroom, right next door to the court where I was a case that was very, very similar. And I know that because, you know, I'm involved in lawyers' organizations and things like that. So I knew the lawyer for the other guy on the other side, the case next door. Went to trial, went all the way through. We pretty much finished the trials around the same time. My verdict was different than the verdict that was in the other case. Totally different. Almost the basic same facts. So what was the answer? What was the lesson to be learned from that? You don't know who your jury is going to be. That person who lost, not a terrific person, along the way probably hadn't done some nice things to people, and he was paying it back.
Karma.
Karma. You call that karma. That's right. It's cause and effect. It's always about cause and effect. You do good things, it bounces off all that dimension up above, comes back to you in blessings and good things. You do not so nice things, bounces off, comes back. It's the same thing as saying bad. It's gossip. You know, gossip's a terrible thing.
Can't stand gossip. Cannot stand it.
So what do you think about her? No. That's the way it starts the conversation. What do you think about such and such? And pretty soon you're off into talking about how bad these people are. Not healthy. Not good. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about small claims to start.
Okay.
And why we call it the People's Court is because the majority of the people in the country have very little exposure to the more involved lawsuits. Maybe they have a PI case, personal injury case. Maybe they have something along the way in a real estate deal. But for the most part, the real court for people is small claims court. In California, we have a limit of $10,000. Now, you can sue somebody for up to $10,000.
That's what I got sued for.
$10,000.
I got sued for $10,000.
Baldy was claiming 20.
I was shocked when I got that. That was actually it was. He did it during Hanukkah, by the way. He did it during the holiday season.
So you got an anniversary now.
Yeah, I did. I can remember Hanukkah via the lawsuit, and it kept me up for like. And by the way, I won, and I knew I was going to win, but it still messed with my head for like a month until I got it settled. So
you didn't really get it settled because didn't he chase you for a restraining order after that?
Oh yeah, yeah. He tried to get a restraining order on me. He tried to do all sorts of nasty little things. But
so we'll talk about small claims,
anyways,
some of the rules. Some of the procedures, the whys and wheres.
I'm a winner.
Well, you settled your other case too.
I've won every. I've been with small claims 5 times, won them all, every time. All right, let's take a break, huh?
Sure.
All right, it's for the people. Judge Herb Dodell. If you want to ask him a question, ask Judge Herb at gmail.com. We'll be right back.
10 1250 AM, KCAA.
Herb Dodell is a lawyer and a judge for the people. Having served as a Superior Court judge, presiding over more than 9,000 cases, he has witnessed firsthand how complicated and corrupt the legal system can be. His goal is to show how things really work in the legal system so that people can navigate the legal system in the best way for them. Many people often feel marginalized by the legal system and are uninformed about how to proceed when unfortunate circumstances arise in their life. Judge Herb will pull back the curtain, lift the veil, so people can truly understand their rights, have access to top legal personnel that they can trust, and have knowledge about how things work so they can make better choices. Judge Herb isn't just knowledgeable. His integrity and spiritual values are truly what make him different. He cares about democratizing access and information for all and desires to turn on the light so the people, you, can benefit. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
One of the things I love about the show is that everything is impromptu. You know, we change things as we go. Every week it's different. We have different scenarios, different people. So seated directly to my left is Georgiana Leahy, who's now become, Georgina actually, has now become my assistant for social networks and social media, since I know nothing about any of that.
Me either, Joe.
I know nothing about. People say Facebook. I say, how do you do that? How do you get on there? Do you need a code? I know nothing. It's like Schultz. Remember the old Hogan's Hero?
I know nothing. I see nothing. Colonel.
Or 40 Towers.
So,
I know nothing.
So Georgie is now going to help me talk to folks about the book and about the show and what we can do for the public. I've told many people, especially in the last couple of weeks, that the reason I wrote the book and the reason I'm doing the show and we're doing all of these YouTubes, which are fun, by the way, is because I'm really trying to help the people.
You are.
I like to think
You're
that
for
I'm.
the people.
Well, I am for the people. I started out as I guess, always plaintiff-minded, caring about the little guy, because I always saw the little guy getting beaten up by the big guy. And since I was a little guy,
I'm tired of this.
And I've gotten shorter. So it makes even. I went to the doctor the other day, and she weighed me, and she did the height stuff. Yeah. She says you're 5'5"3/4. I said I used to be 5'7". She says, well, you get a little older, you get a little shorter, and whatever. I said I didn't have much to spare before. So
that's all right.
Bottom line. Only parts.
As long as your mind is well and not shrinking.
I'm 5'5.5", so we're like the same height.
Same height.
Same height now.
Huh? Wow.
Perfect team. It's
but she's got 44,000 supporters or followers or whatever they call those people.
Yeah, followers.
And I see sometimes when someone shows me these social media things they're talking about. I had breakfast. I had Cheerios today. Well, who cares?
I know.
But that's what they do. They talk to each other all day long. You go to a restaurant and you see 4 people sitting at a table.
I know.
4 people have cell phones.
I know, yeah.
Nobody talks to anybody anymore.
I talk about it all the time when I'm going to my buddy's sushi place that these people sit down and they're having sushi and they don't even talk to each other, but they're on their phones.
They want to take pictures of the sushi and let everyone know what sushi they're
I never
eating.
got the pictures and the sushi and the food pictures, man. I never got that. I don't understand that one at all.
I was eating mac and cheese in the bath this morning, so my roommate filmed me because it was kind of funny.
Shouldn't be eating mac and cheese.
We're entertaining people.
Is it going to be on your website? We'll encourage the people, even if they're not interested in listening to my show, they might be interested in looking at yours.
Exactly.
Let's see Georgina eat mac and cheese.
Exactly.
There you go. And then ask the judge questions.
I do eat a
That
lot
might
of
be a good
cheese.
team.
Yeah,
A lot
right?
of cheese. Well, we really should be talking about small claims.
Okay,
Yes,
well, let's do
let's
it.
go.
Not the,
Not the
one
cheese.
is one is certainly more interesting than the other.
Well, let's talk about small claims.
But I want to tell the people that there is a place for justice for people who are just the average gal and guy in the country.
Yeah.
The rules vary from state to state. California, it's a $10,000 limit. Some states, it's higher. Actually, I think it was in Pennsylvania. I was talking to somebody from Pittsburgh, telling me that I think their limit is higher, and some states it's a little bit lower. But what's good about small claims court is that it's friendly.
People friendly.
The clerks are friendly. The bailiffs are very, very nice generally. I can't speak for my colleagues. Some of them are not so terrific, but for the most part, we go to that court because we know we're talking one-on-one with lay people.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about it, no lawyers.
No lawyers.
That's the best part of it.
Occasionally a lawyer comes
once in a blue moon, but I'm saying for the most part.
A lawyer can represent themselves if they have their own case.
But I'm talking, Judge, if you're suing somebody or whatever, like I got sued, you can sue somebody else. I mean, it's a one-on-one sort of thing, like a dispute. A one-on-one dispute with the person that's you're going against or is going against you.
That's true, but if you appeal from small claims court, and remember, the plaintiffs do not have a right of appeal. If you go to court as a plaintiff and you're suing somebody else for no matter how much money is involved and you lose, you are done. And the reason for that is because you've chosen that forum and knowing well that if you lose, you have no appeal. A defendant, on the other hand, does have a right of appeal. And the reason for that is because they have not had the opportunity to have representation in the small claims court.
Okay.
And so due process, since you're taking something away or may take something away from somebody, and we do things called equity as well as legal issues. Equity meaning we can cancel a contract. I've done that many, many times for a lot of reasons, among which is that somebody fraudulently misrepresented to you to enter into this contract, and you did believing it was true. And so what we do is we set the contract aside. The contract is done. Party has to restore to the other party what they got, so you're basically starting over. But the bottom line is, on an appeal, the defendant does have a right to have a lawyer.
Now, let me ask them. When they appeal the case, does it go to a different court or does it go back to small claims? It goes to municipal court, I guess, right?
No.
Superior Court?
I was assigned to appeals for a while, which I loved, by the way.
Appeals court?
Yeah, well, appeals from small claims.
I didn't even know they had a small claims appeal court.
Sometimes I was assigned to that.
Interesting.
The thing is that it's kind of odd because we're not supposed to know who won before, right? But since the defendant's the only one who has a right of appeal, and you're in an appeal, you know that the defendant lost.
Right.
And I've used that in discussing it with some of the people who are handling the appeal. It's done the same exact way, by the way. For those of you who've never been in small claims court or are appealed from a small claims court judgment, it's the same way. Plaintiff goes first, defendant goes second, et cetera, et cetera. All the rules apply that apply in the regular small claims court proceeding, and it's done what they call de novo, D-E-N-O-V-A, novo, N-O-V-O, meaning from the beginning. So you start all over again. And people always want to know, well, do I have a real chance of winning on an appeal? I mean, I hear about appeals and how infrequently they're granted. That's not necessarily true. I have reversed a number of cases that I heard on appeal, knowing him. And in the book, I got a great story. The defendant was appealing, and I was doing the appeal. And I said to the plaintiff, I said, you won before, but doesn't mean you're going to win now. And there's a possibility you'll walk out of here with zero. And you may want to see about getting it resolved. She didn't want to resolve it. It was like a dispute between two people who had been living together over furniture.
Oh my goodness.
Well, the one said that they contributed the furniture to the unit, and the other said, no, you lent it to me, and The other said, no, it was a gift, and they were all over the place with it. So I said, you cut the risk. I tell people 95% of the cases should settle. Why don't they settle? What's the three-letter word that describes why they don't settle?
Three letters?
Three-letter word beginning with an E.
Ego.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. In fact, I was thinking today about what.
Can you give me a four-letter word for it too?
Several. Stop.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a four-letter word.
I hear you.
Egos.
Well, the problem
Egos,
is problem is when people get sued. I was going to ask this, and I'm going to ask it when we do the audience participation shows, which we're planning on doing.
Cool.
When you got sued, what was your first feeling? Most people I got sued. That son of a bitch had no claim against me to begin with. They're going to make me spend money. They're going to make me do this. I'll show them who's right and wrong, and I got to do this. And what is happening? What is the effect of what's going on right then and there?
Well, it's anger. It's a shock. In my case, disbelief. I don't know. Just it was.
No, but you want to get revenge is another thing.
Yeah, revenge, a battle.
I'll show them.
Yeah, I think I used that word in people's court that he was wanted revenge or something like that.
Well, that may be true. That may be true, and you may be able to argue that because it goes to motive, interest, and bias.
Yeah.
Which is what's used as the basis for determining credibility of witnesses. But the bottom line is, if you're angry at the other side, you're doing yourself a big disservice. Does the other side feel your anger? No, they don't. You feel your anger, and you feel your blood pressure go up, and you feel anxious, or you shake, or whatever. I had a lady pass out in the courtroom. Actually, I'm standing there. I'm not standing there. I'm looking at the two litigants. One was a woman, and in the middle of a sentence, she just dropped right to the floor. Well, we had the medics and everybody come in and everything else. I'm sure it was an anxiety.
Did you continue the case?
I moved everybody out of the courtroom. I had the bailiff move everybody out of the courtroom into the hall.
Really?
Yes.
You cleared the courtroom out?
I did.
Oh my God.
Look, and the paramedics came and whatever, and they put her on the gurney, and out she went. But did I continue the case? Yeah, I guess I did, because there was one party missing. It's hard to try a case with one party missing. And there was a justifiable reason for continuing it.
Yeah.
It's not really continuing it. It's basically staying it.
Right.
And tolling it in the meantime. But when you get angry like that, you start to react. You no longer look at things objectively because you see it from that perspective of being a victim, and I'm going to show them and whatever. And you end up making mistakes.
Right.
You end up either exaggerating it because you're going to make your point, whether it's an intentional exaggeration or not. It's you're getting madder, and you're getting more convinced that you're right the longer the thing goes on. I mean, that's just the way it works. And it's the same thing with revenge. Some great philosopher, I know it was a great philosopher because I read it in a Chinese fortune cookie, said that
Panda Express.
I have one of those. I keep it in my drawer. It was such a good one. It is such a good one.
I keep them all. I've got one
I got one in my wallet.
I got one in my wallet right now, too. What are you talking about? We all do
I've
that.
got one here.
So there you go.
What's it say, Georgina?
You are kind-hearted, hospitable, cheerful, and well-liked.
Wow.
You are all right. I'll keep
That's
that.
not us, Gary.
No, I was going to say mine is way worse than that.
But it said, revenge is two victims in a revenge. The person trying to get revenge and the person who's being attacked. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
It's like what they call evil speech. If you say bad things about somebody, you may feel good because you don't like that person and you're going to get even with them or whatever it is going to be. But if you do that, two people are involved.
Yeah.
You're affecting that other person's life. And if you're affecting that other person's life in a negative way by passing negative energy to that person, it's bouncing back at you.
Yeah.
And the thing about time is that you don't connect a negative event that happens to you. It could be a week, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be a lifetime.
You never know.
And all of a sudden, something terrible happens, and you never know, why did that happen? Well, the reason was you did all of these things in the past. Evil speech, revenge, anger, all of those things.
Drunkenness.
I could never figure out that drunkenness thing.
Neither
People
can
get
I.
drunk. People get drunk and they get nasty and mean.
Yeah.
We'll
I
talk
just
about
get
that.
funnier.
Well,
You do.
or
That's
fall
how
It's
it's
asleep.
more
run.
fun.
Right after the commercial.
All right, it is from For the People with Judge Herb Dodell. We'll be back with more right after this.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
In his book, From the Trench to the Bench, Judge Herb Dodell demystifies the legal system, including both civil and criminal, the lawyers, the judges, and the process. As a judge, former deputy district attorney, and criminal defense attorney, he knows the legal system. He has the inside information that you need to pick a lawyer, and he's here to give it to you. No matter what you're facing that makes you think you may need a lawyer, Judge Herb will shed valuable light on your situation and reveal your best options and many secrets of how the judicial system actually works. To find out more about how the legal system really works, you can get your copy of Judge Herb Dodell's eye-opening book, From the Trench to the Bench, at Amazon.com.
Okay, like I said when we first started, we're going to talk about small claims in the beginning because that's the lowest level, I suppose. Now we're going to the high end. And it's really my pleasure to have as a guest today Jeff Nadrich, who is a specialist in what we call mass torts. You asked me what a tort was before.
Yes, I
civil
did.
wrongs. We've just had this series of serious fires up north in Paradise and the ones we had down here. Well, Jeff specializes in handling cases where there are multiple victims, and that goes as far as asbestos-type cases and what we refer to in the business as mass torts. And he's been doing it for a long time. He's got 8 offices around California, and then he's very technical and very professional and very pleasant. So I'm pleased to have you as a guest today, Jeff. Welcome, and we'll talk about what you do.
Thank you, Herb. It's nice to be here with you today.
So tell us a little bit about you and what you do and what your firm does.
Okay, thank you. We do wildfire cases throughout California, and we also do plaintiffs' work, which is called mass torts, but they are defective medical devices, dangerous drugs, and chemical exposure cases. We do all of that on a contingency. But mass torts is not a class action, and the fire cases that we're doing are not class actions. These are all individual cases of folks who have individual losses, whether it's from a bad medical device or a bad hip or a bad knee, or someone lost their home in Agora or Westlake or Malibu. It's a loss that we're bringing claims. We're filing lawsuits against Southern California Edison for either causing the fire or at least contributing to the ignition of the fire. All of these cases are on a contingency basis. So people get confused. This is to the benefit of the individual homeowner who lost their fire. They're not part of a class that everyone gets the same amount, like pennies on a dollar, like a Verizon settlement. There's a real misunderstanding out there about what we do. So in a fire loss case, at the end, if and when we obtain the settlement against the utility, and we go after the utilities who have a statutory duty to keep the electrical equipment clear of vegetation and to keep the trees clear, and that's how these fires invariably start, we recover for our people the full value of the contents of their home individually. Or if it's a loss, and that can include agricultural property, wineries, vegetation, raw acreage. I have a number of ranches in Agora Hills and in Malibu that the ranch is burnt up, Herb, not the structures themselves, but that 100 years of acreage and foliage is a huge loss, and we can recover that too. We also recover for our people the cost to remove, or demolition cost. The debris removal is a huge amount of money for each homeowner. So we do that against what we call the third party, or the utility, which we believe caused these fires. We have a theory that we're pursuing on that, and this is in addition to what a homeowner would recover from their own homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance.
So if a homeowner was underinsured, for example, this is an opportunity to pick up the difference between what they're going to get and what they should have gotten if they had been adequately insured?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we're going to get our people additional money, whether they had full insurance or they didn't. We're going to get them a settlement. That's our job, from a wholly additional source of recovery for them.
How is this different?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, so it's a great question. The way these work is that in other plaintiff type work, like personal injury, there's a right of recovery. It's called a right of reimbursement if the insurance company paid out on behalf of its insured, if the insured finds a third party recovery. In this work, in fire work, that doesn't occur. So we could obtain an entire separate recovery for our clients, even if they've been made whole or close to being made whole by their homeowner's carrier, and they're not going to get a credit off of that, where the carrier is going to be reimbursed from our client's settlement, Herb.
Is that called a collateral source rule?
No. That client has its own, that insurance company has its own subrogation rights. And so the subrogation department of each insurance company will separately go after the utility for reimbursement of what they paid to the homeowner.
So the buck is going to stop with the utility.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. The utility is going, once we hold them responsible, the utility is going to be responsible for all of that. Candidly, we're mostly concerned with the clients that we represent, and our job is to get them a recovery. As far as the insurance company, they're going to do what they're going to do.
So you're saying, I just have a question for you, Jeff. So you're saying that Southern California Edison is responsible for the Woolsey fire?
I'm saying that we have a theory that we believe that they are at the minimum partially responsible, because we know that there was a problem with their equipment at the point of inception, or the point of the initial ignition. So there was a problem with their electrical equipment that they owned and that they operated and they maintained. And that was noted, and 6 or 12 minutes later, there was a fire which was first reported at a very, very close location to that equipment problem.
Wow.
Are they going to be able to pay all of these claims? There have
been, that's a great question. There's a statutory, they're liable, assuming we find them responsible. They are obligated under California law to maintain vegetation clear of their high wires, clear of their electrical equipment, clear of their transmission equipment. I mean, it is law in the state. And if, in fact, they're derelict in their duties, Herb and Gary, in not being able to clean that and be out there, they have ordinances on all of our properties. I mean, they have rights to go on your property, Herb, if you have high power lines on your property, to do work on that. So that's their responsibility, and that's California law. So as far as do they have, I can tell you that we have, in just the wine country fires in 2017, in October 2017, we have 600 clients. We're part of an executive committee, liaison committee on the major litigation. It's been filed in San Francisco. It came out of Sonoma County. They have, in that fire, that's PG&E, that's the Northern California utility, that's Pacific Gas and Electric. They have $1 or $2 billion of insurance. Now, whether or not that insurance is capable of paying that is another question. But they can always go to the Public Utilities Commission for a rate increase. They can always work with the legislature, and it could end up being California legislature's responsibility, Herb, because their liability on the Camp Fire, which we already have over 100 clients and 50 homeowners that we already represent, could be from $4 to $6 billion in additional liability.
Wow.
That's just Pacific Gas and Electric.
But the question is, if you don't get help from the legislature and they don't raise the rates, or they don't get permission to raise the rates, do they have the financial wherewithal to pay billions of dollars in claims throughout the state? And that includes wrongful death cases, because I'm going to ask you about that too. You know,
we have five. We will, by the end of next week, we will have 5 wrongful death cases on the Camp Fire. But that's a different party. We're focused. Let's just focus on the Woolsey part for a moment, and that's Southern California Edison. They're a very financially stable company, but we're not that concerned with that. Our concern is proving our case for our clients, so that at the end of the day we can get a recovery for them. We have an old saying called "That's a cart before the horse." And first things first, and that's our ability to prove the case. Because at the end of the day, this is going to be someone's responsibility, and it could very well be the California legislature.
That's the first time I've heard that Edison was somebody was accusing Edison of being responsible for the fire.
It's called a deep-pocketed defendant. You know, nothing worse than winning against somebody who's got nothing. I mean, obviously,
Like me.
it's not exactly a win. It's not like you and small claims, Gary.
We're very blessed that our entire business, we work on a contingency, and we only litigate against utilities, Fortune 500 companies, and large insurance companies.
Thank you, Jeff.
Here,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Somebody's
very blessed.
Well, somebody's got to be out there fighting for the guy in the middle.
I know.
The purpose of our show and the purpose of the book is to help the person in the middle. The haves will almost always beat the have-nots because they got the money and the ability to hire the best and drying you out and do all those other things.
Prolonging it.
So you're doing a great job because you're leveling the playing field. They can't beat you by attrition. That's a very big difference. The average young lawyer that's just starting out can't afford to take these people on because they'll spend them into the ground. But the benefit of dealing with a firm like yours is that you have the financial ability, from what I understand, you have the financial ability to take them on and stay with them toe-to-toe to the end. And once that happens, you get to the courthouse steps, that's when they start to talk the real money. That you survive to get there is what it's about.
You're absolutely right. We have the resources. We have the resources. We have our own group of law firms that I'm head of that will take on anyone on a case that we believe. The important thing to remember on these fire cases is that Southern California, and I really want to hone this into our listeners, is that Southern California Edison has specific legal duties to properly construct, inspect, maintain, and repair and operate its electrical power lines, its utility poles, and its equipment. They're obligated by law to do that. Same thing, they're obligated to keep the vegetations and the trees properly trimmed at a safe distance from its power lines and its from equipment to prevent contact. And here's the problem. They didn't do that, and we're going to prove that. And so that's the same thing that happened at Camp Fire. It's the same thing that happened in the Wine Country fires. I think maybe the two of you remember there was a tremendous tragedy in October 2017 in Sonoma County. And we have so many stories of people who've lost everything, wineries, businesses, incredible estates. It's just a tragedy. So this is the law. And you know, if you think about it from a common sense point of view, if we're not obligated to do that, that's their job. Those are their transmission lines. That's where they create their electricity. That's how they make money. That's how they generate revenue. So they should be responsible for that. That's California law. And so these wildfire cases are going to be a long time. We have many on the Thomas Fire. We have hundreds of people who represent on the Thomas Fire. And we wanted to really get the word out, and we want to thank the two of you for allowing us to do so. If anyone is interested in allowing us to represent them, Herb, if I can give you my phone number, is that okay?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Thank you. Our phone number is, we have two numbers. One is a 310 local number. That's 310-826-8082. Or our 800 number is 800-718-4658. We have intake specialists. We have fire intake specialists handling the phones day and night to talk to people.
Best time to call you is at 4 in the morning, I suppose.
There, we have somebody here, Herb. I'm going to
try it. I'm going to try it out tonight.
They can also go on our site. They can also go on our site. We have a live chat service in which we have our people are available online to chat with people. It's called Engage, where they chat and people tell them what happened, and someone immediately calls them back.
Are your people located in India, or are they located here?
No.
I know. If I have something wrong with my computer, I call some guy.
Everything is right here.
His name is Harry. His name is really not Harry.
Spanish and
yeah, it's not Spectrum TV. Okay, this isn't Spectrum TV. You know, this is on Bangladesh.
And let me give you our website, and they'll see it from there.
Is this a promotion or what? I think this is a promotion. I should charge you for a commercial.
Go ahead, Jeff. Okay. What's your website? Okay. What's your website?
It's www.personalinjurylaw.com/Woolsey Fires.
You do asbestos stuff too, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Because I see that commercial. If you stay up at any hour of the night, you see the guy comes on. Meso book. You want a Meso book? Yeah. It's free. It's really
that's
invitation.
Jeff. That's Jeff.
Yeah. We provide a resource for your.
You do that in the middle of the night? Are you one of those guys?
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do any television advertising.
They don't need to. They're real lawyers.
And nothing on the back. And nothing on the back of the bus, right?
Yeah. No, nothing on the back of the phone book, or nothing. We have nothing on the back of a World War II naval battle book, which was a huge source of leads for mesothelioma in years back.
Yeah, the people who were in the service.
Yes,
that's right.
But those are kind of. I just wanted to see if you could tell the folks out there, and we try very hard to speak only in layman's terms. So if there's a legal term, we try to explain what it is so people understand it. So what's the difference between what you're doing and a class action?
Well, class action, everyone is going to get paid the exact same amount once there's a court approval.
You get $11 and the lawyers make all the money. That's the way it works, right?
To me, it's very unfair. And I don't do that. We don't do that. We just represent folks who've lost their lives, lost their property, and they are what's called litigated together in the lawsuit. Even though they're separate, it's called consolidation, where they're all consolidated together because it was a loss on the same date against the same responsible party. But everyone's claim is the value of what their claim is unique to them.
And as a committee, I was on one of them in the case with the uterine device years ago. I was on the committee, and so there was about a half a dozen lawyers representing thousands of people. And doing all the work, getting paid for it separately, but everybody got the benefit of the work done by the handful of people who were specialists in the areas. The Dalcon Shield, that's what it was. Dalcon Shield.
Right. Yeah, I have a lot of. Yes, I'm very aware of that. That went on for 10 years. I'm very aware of that litigation, and that's what happens in everything.
Well, anyway, we're coming to the end of the show, so let me thank you very much, Jeff, for being our guest today and for being very, very informative. And I hope that the folks out there who have a need will go to somebody as professional as you, and maybe we'll talk again after you have some successes in the field, and we can share your successes and what you've been able to do for the public, and that's what we're really interested in doing. So,
and maybe I can come back when we have some significant developments on what happened out there.
That's a good idea. We're going to put that on the calendar. Put that on the calendar, Georgie.
Thank you.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right,
Talk
take
to you
care.
soon.
All right, cool. That was informative.
I didn't know some of that stuff myself.
I didn't know about Edison. He's suing
I didn't
Edison.
know.
It's crazy.
Edison wasn't a bad guy. Lights, we can't do without lights.
Yeah, Thomas Edison. You know?
Yeah, you know Tom.
I didn't know him, but create electricity, right?
We were close.
All right, we gotta take a break. We'll be back after this.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
Did you ever meet a lawyer that was for the people? Someone who had the best interests of the people at heart? Herb Dodell has been a lawyer for more than 50 years and has been a Superior Court judge for 9 years, having presided over more than 9,000 cases. In this show, he will reveal the secrets of how things really work in the legal system, so you can maximize your position and benefit most when you're in trouble and need someone on your side to simplify the process for you. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Well, that was very informative. You know, even though I practiced full time for a long, long time, he's mentioning some things that kind of made sense that I hadn't really thought about for a long, long time. But the class action thing, I always kind of laugh at that because you get a notice in the mail, you're getting $4.06.
Yeah.
And you could use the next time you go to Target or something like that. You got $4, whatever.
I'll buy a tall.
But if you look at what the lawyers made, it was not $4.
I got one in the post. I didn't know what it was.
If you don't answer, you're in the class.
Oh, okay. I didn't
answer. If you answer, you can what they call opt out. Opt out means you don't have to be part of the class if you don't want to be. The benefit to that is that you can stand on your own.
Mm-hmm.
The disadvantage is you don't get the benefit of all of the things that the class is doing, although they have to make it available to you. So even if you're just one-on-one and you're not in the class, you can still take advantage of what they discover, because most of the time it's put into a depository that's available for any litigant that's dealing with that subject matter.
As opposed to a suppository.
Same result. You're going to get it in the same place.
That's why I referenced it.
Yeah, I wish I had a comeback for that one. The fact of the matter is that class actions, they do accomplish a purpose because it generally deters companies. I
don't know what it was
doing
even
something.
for.
Well,
I bought something or a product or something. Yeah.
A lot of times it deals with your credit card. You know, they charge you additional rate of interest than they should have. And so you're 1% of the $46 you spent that year.
Like Wells Fargo did.
$4.06, you know, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But you get something.
Yeah.
You get upgrades, but you can never use them. And I got one of these things in the mail that says, you will be entitled as part of this settlement to 2 upgrades on your next national flight or domestic flight, right? They never have any seats.
No.
I just toss those in the trash.
I do. There's always a catch.
Yeah.
For those who think, oh, great, next time I'm going to New York, I'm going to use my coupon, and I'm going to sit in the front. Well, no, you're not.
Try again.
No, you're not. In fact, I once called one of them, and they said, you know, I got to be in your higher level because I was flying a lot. I said, if there's an available seat within 72 hours in first class, they're supposed to upgrade you. That's what the premium means.
Yeah.
So I would call, you know, I never had any seats available. And I would call 72 hours in advance, and I'd say, we haven't got any seats. I said, do you have any seats available if I wanted to pay full price?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes, we have seats for venue. The magic words were revenue.
Revenue, yeah.
Seats for revenue.
Revenue.
So I called an hour before. Got any seats? We hold them till at the gate. If you show up at the gate with your economy ticket and maybe there's a seat that's available in the front, maybe you get it. But if they don't, you're flying economy and you bought the ticket.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a real. I thought about filing a class action. I honestly did.
Did you tell me you're a judge?
Right.
I'm a lawyer and a judge.
But I think it was before.
Upbraid me.
I think it was before I got appointed. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these class action things are just fluff. Some lawyer got a great shot at a great case. They find what they call the nominal plaintiff. One person is the plaintiff, right? They have no special position. They're just a plaintiff. You have to have a plaintiff in order to have one of these things. So they find somebody who's going to be the plaintiff, and the other 10 million people that are in there are going to split a pot or whatever it is, but the lawyers are getting paid on the gross, less their expenses. And so they're not getting $4.
$4 million.
It's some of them. That's exactly right. It's a cottage industry. I know a guy that's made a fortune in doing class actions. So all he does is class actions, but they have to spend all the money for the printing. The biggest expense in class actions is printing, because you got to send notices to everybody. And so if you multiply 32 cents, whatever it is, and you have to give them several. One is a notice of settlement, and an opportunity to either opt out or oppose it. Or
I get them all the time. I get them at least once or twice a year.
So will I maybe be getting like $4?
Yeah,
at some point?
Hang on to it. Hold on.
Don't spend it in one place.
But the reality is, it's a way for the mass amount of people to get some relief.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nobody's going to sue the Bank of America over $14. Made no sense. But if you've got 10 million people who got beat out of the $14, now it does make sense.
It's principle too, Judge. Some of these are about principle and not about the money. It's not all about the money, even though you're a lawyer.
I had dinner with some friends the other night, and one of the guys was saying to me, well, they took this romaine lettuce off the market because 14 people got sick. I said, so does it matter? It was only 14 people? Yeah, for 14 people, they took it off. Look at all the money that was lost by the farmers. I said, boy, that for me is an analysis that I don't agree with at all.
Yeah.
No.
14 people is 14 lives, It doesn't really make any difference whether
one person's life,
It's not about the revenue.
Come on.
It's not about the earnings. To me, I don't mean to stand on a soapbox here. You get me started on this, but the fact of the matter is, we need to take care of each other and keep aware of what effect it's having on all of us together.
Amen.
United.
Speak, brother.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Is that what we're going to do?
Hallelujah.
Happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
I actually lit a candle.
Are you lighting a candle?
Yeah, I'm going to light two tonight.
Wow, you really
I'm
are.
doing it. I got to ignore the whole damn thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. I actually read a whole thing on Hanukkah today on my show. It was pretty cool. I didn't know you'd light the candles right to left. First time.
Why?
I was lighting them left to right.
By the way,
Oh no.
You
learn.
I'm the worst Jew on earth.
You want to know why you light it in that direction, right to left?
Yeah, why?
Why Hebrew is written from right to left?
No, I don't know why, but go ahead.
Why?
They do because, from a scientific standpoint, energy travels from right to left, positive to negative.
Really?
Positive to negative. And so that's why you light it from that direction.
I'm always going to walk right to
following
left.
the energy. You're following the energy.
No, I dig that.
That's
Right
to the left.
I dig that. That's far out, man.
Yeah, I just learned that not too long ago. I was wondering about that.
That's really cool.
Why is it written in Hebrew language from right to left?
I'm always going to
Somebody told me that.
That's right. Shimmy to the right. Right to left. Oh, we got to go, Judge.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right. Check out the Judge's videos on YouTube and also his book, From the Trench to the Bench, available on Amazon.com.
And if you have any questions, ask Judge Herb at gmail.com. I will answer. I got an interesting call, by the way. I'll tell you about it next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business? The American Business Trust Company